welcome, ladies and gentlemen. A new week and new set of problems that we have to find solutions to. Welcome to another edition, another installment of hashtag Fade to Black. I'm your host, Donald Martin Morris. Here with the Dita Joe, aka Teach, and here with Beast Johnson. How everybody doing?
Doing great. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. What about you, Beast?
Doing as good as one can be in the midst of everything right now.
So ladies and gentlemen, this show is based upon what's going on in North Carolina and speaking to a North Cal Lillian, if I said that right, but he's from the Carolinas.
Mm-hmm.
He is going to be telling us about this disturbing case that nobody's talking about. Good evening, Mr. Woodard. About a 6-year-old, ladies and gentlemen, a 6-year-old that is on trial. And then even before the show, B said there's other stories coming out of North Carolina, maybe just as worse as the 6-year-old case. But with that, y'all already know how it goes. We're gonna do our opening statements, and first, we're gonna let Beast take the lead. Let's go.
All right. Whitney Houston once sang, I believe the children are the future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Show them all the beauty that they possess inside. I wish that song was still relevant nowadays. Because we don't see children as children. We don't see them as innocents anymore. Most of you breeders, because I refuse to call the good portion of you that actually bore children parents, because you're sorry excuses for them. And if you got a problem with what I just said, then I'm talking about you. But to the bulk of you breeders out there, children are merely tax exemptions and tax credits. And we're not teaching them and showing them that they can be more. We're showing them now that you can indulge in your selfishness and you can indulge in your individuality, whatever it is that you feel like your feelings mean more than logic. If you feel like you want to live life as a polka dotted princess with dragon scales for feet and a unicorn horn on the top of your head, the world now says there are surgeons and there's many industries that you can invest money into that will give you that outcome. We're not teaching the children to be respectful, to be reserved and acknowledged and accountable. We're teaching them now that do whatever the hell you need to do to get attention for whatever reason you need to get attention. Nobody's going to punish you for it. You'll be praised for it. Acting like an unruly heathen in public gets you praise and accolades now. I hate to sound old, but in my day, it got your ass snatched the fuck up real good. And everybody just looked at you like, other kids looked at you like, damn, you stupid. Because I know my mama was going to fuck me up if I did that. We need to do better with our children. We need to do a better job of protecting them, teaching them, getting them to understand their place in the world and how the world in all facets may view them at any particular given moment. We need to start treating our children like the young adults we're trying to raise them to be. Because once they become adults, you can't tell an adult shit. You gotta let them find out the hard way. So don't let them get 18, 19 and then want to tell them to do right with the world or do right with their life. It's too late. Just please, people, do a better job of safeguarding these children. Because when we gone, they got to fix this mess. Well, let's do right by them so they can do right by us in the long run. That I yield the floor.
Thank you, Beast, for that. It's kind of funny. I was actually looking at my Bell Buddy's wife, kid. Beautiful thing. I will show you my cracked screen, but this is too crash, ridiculous. Every day when I hear stories, what we're about to talk about, I lose more and more faith in this country, where we all should be understanding of everybody's problems. But we live in a world of privilege, entitlement, and then you got the, I'm just going to mind my own business world right now, where it's just, what is wrong with seeing somebody on the side of the street, tire flat? What's stopping you from not pulling over and helping them out? And let's put race into it. What is stopping anybody from going to help a black man or a black woman on the side of the street to help them out? Because they're race. Or you see like an old Ford pickup truck to your Maserati. What is stopping you from going over there and helping that person out? Because they look poor and you don't want to get dirty. We always want to pride ourselves as being the greatest country on the face of this earth, and that there's no other place they'd rather live and rather be. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you, I beg to differ. I beg to differ. How, Morris? Have you ever left the country? Oh, yes. Iraq and Puerto Rico. But don't take my word for it. Talk to artists like, let's use Tina Turner, because her documentary just came out a couple of days ago. She said when she went overseas, she felt like racism didn't exist. Now, don't get it twisted. Racism is all over the world. But when you have a status like Tina Turner, racism is the least of your worries. People love her. They still love her. And artists just like her that says they don't get that same exact feeling like they do in the United States, and that they don't want to leave. His name about the I probably got his name, Louis Armstrong. Hopefully I didn't say his name wrong. Famous jazz musicians back in the day. He said when he went overseas, he didn't want to come back because he felt wanted. He felt he was treated like a human damn being. And there's other people that I talk to that feels the same way, that don't have like the big social status, but they say when they go over to the other countries, they feel loved, they feel wanted, they don't feel the racism, they don't feel like they have to walk over, look over their backs, look at their six. But here, you are judged by your race. You are judged by your class. You are even judged by your views here in this country, even when you didn't say anything. So I counteract each and every one of y'all that sit there and say, this is the greatest country. This is the best country. I challenge you The greatest country or the greatest of anything don't have problems like this. Don't have problems of killing people, and the people that does the killing walks away with it, and the person that is the victim get demonized. If that's a definition or example of this country being great, you are the reason why every day I lose faith in this country. I yield the floor.
Nanga Def, Manga Furi, I greet you in the tongue of the Wolof speaking people of Senegal. Hello, how are you? You all are talking about some heavy things this evening. And as I'm listening, one thought came to my mind, and it comes from the Bible. And it says that children are your inheritance. And most of us think about inheritance in terms of what your parents would leave to the children. But I interpret it a little different. When it says that children are your inheritance, it means that in your creative energy, for your creative pleasure, you inherit children. Meaning that they're given to you to nurture, to groom, to develop, to impart wisdom, to transmit your culture. So, in other words, they are your responsibility. You inherit the responsibility of grooming the next generation to stand where you once stood. Because you know this life is a cycle of birth, living, and death. So in your living, you inherit children, giving you the responsibility to groom them, that they may take over and groom their inheritance. So when we are in our creative pleasure, let us all remember and be responsible that inheritance can come out of it. And that inheritance is not something you can just take back or treat it any kind of way. Because we have so many broken children that when they become adults, they are broken in their adulthood. And they have issues and problems and hangups that's not easily resolved. And then they try to take all that brokenness and merge with another person that's also broken. And you have all these broken pieces from two lives that in their pleasure, in their creativity, they bring forth yet another set of inheritances that are also broken. We have to say individually, as well as collectively, that we must heal before we bring other people into our lives. Because if we're broken and they're broken, we just have a big old shattered mess. So, ladies and gentlemen, children are your inheritance, your responsibility. I yield the floor.
Well, we are back. First, shout out to the sponsor, Real Chairboy Popcorn, 12 different flavors. Try it out. The website is on the bottom, realchairboypopcorn.com. I think Beast has got some technical difficulties going on. Hopefully, he will join us soon. But we want to, I want to show this video that he actually sent on to our message board, and this is what we're going to talk about.
A 6-year-old black boy in North Carolina was waiting at his bus stop to go to school where he saw a tulip in the yard and picked it like little kids do. And he was arrested and now awaits juvenile charges for injury to real property, where they had to give him a coloring book in trial because he wouldn't sit still long enough because the attention span of a 6-year-old little boy is short. And they are charging him for picking a damn flower. But you're telling me the justice system isn't racist? Please go to hell.
Yeah. These are one of the stories. This is the first one that Beast wanted to talk about. I think he's probably going to find some more stories. But Cheech, just by looking at that video, what are you pondering? What are you thinking?
Well, what I'm thinking is currently we're having an issue with crimes against Asian Americans. And I've been watching just the reaction of the African American community, the white community, and the Asian community, and the media outlets, and how they're telling the story. But one thing that I find significant is African Americans are really advocating loudly to stop the Asian violence. And in so doing, I'm seeing how everyone is getting on that bandwagon, and I'm looking for that anti terrorist how could I say moniker. In other words, when Black Lives Matter began as a movement, then the anti moniker was Blue Lives Matter. But as the Asians are going for, African Americans are on the bandwagon, and I don't hear any anti-terrorism. Because anti-terrorists have lives too. I don't know what they could say. I'm quite sure they're going to come up with something. But for right now, I don't hear any anti. And the point that I'm coming to is that we have been mistreated the longest, the hardest, the most serious. So much so to the point the people say, "Oh, just take it." You know what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And that's the message that's really been sent out. And I know, and if you go into, American history, Asians have suffered quite a bit on American soil. But now, right now, they're being highlighted. But it's just curious to see how quickly African Americans will come to others' aid, and nobody comes to our aid, but everybody's quick to come to their aid. And I may be, hate crimes or any crime is wrong, but I don't see myself carrying a banner right now.
I see where you're going with it, Teach, because it brings up the point you're making is, how come anytime there's an issue or a surge of volume amongst the Black community, there's an immediate anti-energy in response to it. Always. When it comes to us and when we try to move forward, it's always, but with anybody else, like she said, when it comes to the Asians, yes, they have dealt with that, but they don't have full-blown organizations set to systematically destroy their culture and completely genocide them off the face of the earth. The Mexicans, same, they done had their share of hell as well. But once again, they don't have any organizations or laws or institutes that were purposely designed against it. They fell under it, but like T said, when it comes to us, there's always that response. There's always that immediate. It's like that contrarian friend. When it comes to us, we're that one friend that everybody always got a response for when they can make a comment. If Einstein says this. The second we say it, Einstein didn't say that, but let somebody else say it, it could be completely false. Everybody else listen to it, take it in, like, well, no, maybe they're right. It's like, no, they're wrong. At least I was right when you try to call me out.
Yeah. So I'm gonna bring this all together, and this in lies with both of what y'all were saying. Do you believe groups come in, like, for example, Black Lives Matter, they just jump in because they know that since Black people can, let's be for real, when Black people put their hands on something, it turns to platinum, not gold, but platinum. Knowing that
they the children of Midas,
right, and knowing that we got that type of touch, knowing that we got that inherited in us, that they just going to jump on that shine and get what they want. Do you believe that other cultures and other organizations just piggyback off us just to get what they want, which lead to what you were saying, Teach, when we having issues and we having troubles? Where are y'all? Do you believe that?
Organizations, yes. It gets kind of dicey and speculative when you start talking about like whole races and cultures, because I honestly feel like the Asians have always had our back, because they done went through just as much hell as we have. And the only folk that went through more hell on American soil than Black folk is the Indians. And notice how every time there's some shit jumping, they the first two that always got our backs. They're the first ones that's really jumping up without doing it for clout or notoriety. It's only after later on when you find out that, oh yeah, the Asians is in support of it as well. That's one thing that I saw showcased through this Asian hate movement, was a lot of correlation and doubling back from the Asian community to Black Lives Matter, and to the point of unjust violence and unnecessary ignorance perpetuating that violence. So I won't say all, but there are some organizations that, yes, they do strategically place themselves in situations like this for their personal outcome.
What about you, Cheech?
I agree with him. Individuals as well as organizations do strategically put their support behind various causes to advance their own prestige, or their to give light to who they are and what they do. Like the Irish Defense League, they were very prevalent in terms of giving legal assistance during the civil rights movement, and they did it because, one, they believed in the cause, and two, it advanced them as a credible organization, a notable premier organization. When the civil rights won, they won. When their client won, they won. So strategically, organizations will align themselves with a cause that will bring them some form of fame and notoriety.
Which leads us back to what's going on in North Carolina now. Bisha, you was having some technical difficulties, so
I was having the Mayo moment.
Yeah. So give us the breakdown of what is going on here, because all of what we're talking about ties into this.
The only saving grace of this whole thing is they're refusing to actually disclose the child or the individuals that initiated all this bullshit. Basically, a little 6-year-old boy. I just want to paint a picture. Close your eyes if you will. And if you relate to these actions, I want you to turn yourself in. You're standing outside the bus stop, waiting for the bus as normal children do every day before school. This is a 6-year-old, so put your mind into the 80s, baby. This is before technology. You ain't out there listening to music, just taking in the nature, waiting on the bus, seeing what the hell passed by. You see a little tulip on the ground at the property that is designated as the bus stop. You don't know it's property. That's just where they tell you to go stand so the bus can come pick you up. And you just pick up a tulip. Now, you're in the courthouse, dangling your little 6-year-old legs on a grown man's chair, being told by your lawyer to just sit there with a coloring book and some crayons and draw a picture. Because you are now been placed under arrest and charged with the act of damage to real property. I don't really give a damn what color the child is. It's a fucking child. The child didn't piss outside. They didn't defecate. They didn't throw things. They picked up a plant. Something that was here long before humans and is going to be here long after humans. So we as humans have no fucking ownership over it. How was that damaging? If you have damaged any real property in your childhood days by means of plucking, picking, any kind of flora, then you, my child, have committed an offense. And apparently, if a 6-year-old can be charged with this, then there's no statute of limitations. So anybody watching in Greensboro, y'all call me up in the morning. We can all head down to the courthouse to turn ourselves in.
So let me ask you this. So the child, who reported the child? Did the bus driver report the child, the neighbor, the owner of the property?
the property owner, but like the child, that information is being discreetly and oddly left out.
Okay. Now
The only thing that they're posing now is the question of what is too young, or at what age can a human being make critical thoughts and critical decisions? That's the question that's being posed now, due to the fact that they're not releasing the child's name or the individual that actually called the cops on this child.
Well, they should release their name. But
I
what I'm seeing based upon this information, one thing, I don't know how they handle juveniles in court. I do not. So this next statement that I make may be totally just erroneous. But my first thing that comes to my mind is that he's 6 years old and they're giving him a coloring book and crayons to color to keep him still. I don't know if that's protocol. And the reason why I say that is because usually in court, outside of your attorney, no one is supposed to be writing or anything. And so it seems that they have set the child up to look nonchalant or non-caring before the judge or even a jury if they have a jury. They're setting him up to look like he doesn't even care about what's going on. He's just doodling on a piece of paper. And so I have a lot of fault with that because I don't know the protocols, but I know that for adults, that's it's not disrupting the court, but it's a form of disrespect in the court. So I'm really I think that not being in the courtroom, not knowing the protocols, I just see that as wrong to even start the case.
Is completely justified and rational. As someone who has been in the courts, both as a witness and as a client, I can attest from all angles that even when children are involved, only when it is of the utmost importance, and that's only after the child has been vetted, so to speak. You know, that they've had the conversation with the child, they've put the child in a mock scenario to see if the child would be able to respond and give somewhat of an adult response. But that's only in severe cases of violence and other deviant natures. For something as this, children aren't even actually allowed in the courthouse. And even if they have to give testimonies, they usually will go to a mediation where kind of like a therapist can screen the question and get the answers and then testify on behalf of the child.
Well, for me, being the Southerner, just like you, Beast, two things come to mind. Well, not even, it's just this one thing. Southern justice. I know you heard that a lot. Yeah, Southern justice. And it's not just, well, it is. It's just how the South do their type of justice.
It's how the South reminds us that, yeah, y'all might have won the battle, but we gonna still win the war.
Right. And now it is twisting my insides hearing this story about this young kid. He's not even a young man yet. He's a young kid.
It's a child.
Right.
We can't call him a kid yet. It's a child.
he can't even comprehend his surroundings around him. He probably think that, oh, this is a nice place to be, and they gave me a coloring book and da 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 da.
Look here. Let's be real. To the adults that can remember. I don't need you to remember everything. But let's just be honest with ourselves. At 6 years old, you still had your moments of, I pissed myself, or I wet the bed. Let's keep it real here now. That's it. Now, not everybody was functional adults at 6 years old. We were still trying with some things. We still had nightmares. We still couldn't sleep without a light on. Like,
or sleep by ourselves.
Exactly. I'm beyond the point of disgusted, and I'm to that point where teachers like, don't nothing need to be said. I just need to go out here and go do something. Like, that's the point I'm at right now when you hear stories like this, because it's like, it makes me understand when my dad freaked out on me as a child over something as small as a toy gun. Like, his response. I understand it, man. Because this type of fuckery, I can't get. I don't know what.
The second point that I wanted to elaborate on is that of the person that called the police. Not let me talk to the parent and maybe get some type of retribution. She could pay me $1 or $2 for the damaged plant, or buy her a new set of bulbs to come up the next season. They went and pressed charges. A severe form of penalty. And with me, it feels like hot venom. It's relentless and it has no mercy. So in my mind, who is filled with so much hatred for a little child that common sensibility overrules their senses, that they want to prosecute this child to the full extent of the law?
That's a great question, Teach.
That's a lot of hatred.
Yeah.
Because if you think about on the scale,
that's not hatred. That's malice. Like, that's beyond hatred. That's pure malice right there. Because the question I have, how can you look at a child and view them as an adult for their actions? Like you said, this was some, even because the way teachers painted it is saying that these were actual garden tulips. Somebody had grown them. Like, the boy was close, or this person had an actual garden bed close to the bus stop, and that was an actual tulip, not some little natural one grown, but someone had done it. Then, even then, the response is beyond ignorant. Like, why you hate folks that much? Like, who hurt you that much, or who pissed you off that much to just say, quote Bernie Mac, fuck the kids. Fuck the kids? Yeah. And me.
Yeah. But for me, I think it's very, now, Beast, I understand what you're saying. Whatever kid's up in there, either a white kid, an Indian kid, a Native American. But we know. The racial, that's why I said Southern justice, because it's so racially motivated. What that girl said at the end of that video was so true. Because everybody's saying, well, the justice system is doing what it's supposed to. And it seems to me, this kid could have just, let's say, he fell in this person's yard. Could have just had a little, slip up, it happens. And this thing still would have happened. Oh, the kid, what they called it, trespassing on my property. I want to press charges. It's a little kid, a little black kid. And for me to just to hear these things, I think about old school movies like Rosewood or
Cornbread Earl and me.
or Deacons for the Fence, where it's funny that you brought up your dad, Beast, because that's the first thing that popped in my mind. Because anybody ever saw the movie for Deacons for the Fence, I highly recommend that y'all watch it. There was a part where Forrest Whitaker's he plays the father. There was one part where he did not want his oldest daughter to be a part of the protests. He urged against it because, number one, he had a job. Number two, if the white folks, I don't want to do anything to shake up the white folks to come attack me. I got a good paying job. Everything is great. If they don't mess with me, I don't mess with them. And it took that one time when his daughter defied his order to go down there to the protest, where she was attacked by a police officer, where in your case, Beast, when your dad was you said a toy gun, right? And he just flipped out, correct?
Mm-hmm.
When he saw that police officer strike his daughter, he snapped. I think any father or anybody, if they see their kid get attacked, it's like nothing else matters. You could be having the greatest day of your life, and if you see anybody put their hands on your kid, it's like day and night. And so
this was time to go kill somebody.
Right. And when he attacked that officer and then got her out of there, he then realized, like, damn, I'm the one that's scared. Why am I being feared for my goddamn life just to appease the white folks? And that's when he created, after he went to jail and he got beat up, that's when he decided to start the Deacons for Defense. I'm just to the point where we just can't be like, oh, it's just the justice system. Or, it happens to
people.
No, we can say that, but we just gotta take it. We gotta be real with it. It's just it's just the justice system.
Right.
Justice for everybody.
But people are actively engaged as judges, jury, prosecutors, and defense attorneys. They're people. They're broken people running that system. The system isn't a building, isn't an inanimate object. They are animate objects. They are people fulfilling those roles. The justice system is a system of people fulfilling those roles.
And I'm really believing that every day, Teach. I'm really believing that because
they are.
Because go ahead, Teach.
Louis Farrakhan, long time ago, he was on the talk show, Phil Donahue talk show. And he, as well as several audience members, says that history in America is not being taught properly. And if they teach it properly, then maybe white folks will have a chance to overcome their racial attitudes.
Because at times, go ahead, Teach. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
So you have a whole body of people that have broken racial ideals that's fed at home. Every night they sit home at dinner, they feed racial attitudes, racial ideals. And so when they leave and go into the community as the judge, the prosecutor, the neighbor, the teacher, the policeman. They take those attitudes that they ate upon, that they dined upon at their dinner table. America is sick.
Agreed.
Yes, it goes back to my opening statements. Is I lose faith in this country day by day. We should not be saying this country is the greatest country on the face of this planet.
Well, honestly, the black man, I never really had much faith in this nation.
And then going back,
to be honest with you.
yeah, and then going back to what Cheech was saying about, it's the people, it's not just, an idea of the justice system. I believe honestly that they make up the rules as they go. It's just like football, You think you going in the rules, you could freaking spear tackle, you could helmet to helmet. You can't do that.
You can spear tackle, but you can't. No. You can Superman tackle, but you can't spear tackle. What's the difference?
And here's the thing. Then when you see the other team do what they're not supposed to and get away with it, and you call it out, like for example, a lot of people say that Tom Brady gets a lot of calls for him, which I do believe. But for other quarterbacks, they're gonna get that. They ain't gonna get those calls. But since it's Tom Brady, he's an exception to the rule.
It was same with Jordan.
Right. And then the next year, new rules start to come up, which will support Tom Brady even much more than the other quarterbacks. Because the other quarterbacks think, okay, they got more rules that can help out the quarterback. Yeah. And then they go out in their first game, and that same thing that's in the rule book that say they cannot do it, and it happens to them. Nope. And I'm starting to believe when you actually do have people that look like us in the justice system, they're given a book of what you should do, what is within the law to do. While I think the people that's up in there right now don't even follow that book.
Well, now the book is just so massive and vaguely descriptive that you can apply it how you see fit. That's why you have so many laws in effect that have a discrepancy with it. Like, this is another one that I just found out about. It's not in North Carolina, that's Alabama. Go figure.
Oh boy.
But a teacher was arrested for inappropriate conduct with a student under the age of 19, and she deemed it unconstitutional for her to be arrested because the age of consent in Alabama, like most states in the South, is 16. But therein comes the discrepancies with the laws. Now you have, there's something I learned in high school, that yes, sexual consent is at 16. So a 14-year-old can date an 18-year-old as long as they're not doing anything sexual. A 16-year-old can date up to a 19-year-old, as long as it's within a 4-year span. Once you hit 20, it becomes a gray area. You better be retarded. But anything after 4 years, then they get you. But also, again, if one party is not 16 and another party is still, and both parties are still under 18, then the consent law still goes into effect, i.e., the girl is 15, the boy is 17, and the parents get mad. Now the boy is a sexual predator and is on the registry for the rest of his life because she was under the consenting age, but they were both under the legal national consenting age.
Ain't that something? And speaking of that, we can go.
This is the rules we have.
Yeah, and which it's making me lead to talk to more about the southern states. But Beast, you got more stories from North Carolina. And with that, let's get to our corners, and we'll be right back. And just like that, we are back. During the exchange, I did mention Southern Justice. Now, when I say that, a lot of y'all who are from the South who really take offense with me saying that, yes, it happens all over the place. Racism happens all over. It could be a case like that happening up here in Washington that I don't even know. I'm not saying that. But the bulk of all this racism and cases like this mainly happens in the South or get adopted from the South. And North Carolina, to tell you the truth, not trying to disrespect your state, Beast, but I have not gotten any like warm and fuzzies. I'm about to tell y'all a story that I have.
live here. I got some shit for you.
Yeah, I never told this story before, but I'm gonna go ahead and tell it. So I think I was this kid's age, I believe. I think I was 6 or 7 during the time. My daddy, he used to work for a furniture company where they would deliver, around the nearby neighboring states. Like I think the furthest was North Carolina, but not North Carolina, New York. But not trying to get too much in the weeds. So we went down to North Carolina, going down to North Carolina for the first time. And as we was driving, we stopped at this light, and I saw this truck with these white kids sitting in the back, sitting in the back of the truck. I looked, and then I turned away. But then, as we were driving off, some said, "Look back," and every single one of those white kids was flicking me off. At that time, I didn't know what that meant, but it just gave me that feeling in my gut that it wasn't good. I never told my daddy. Yeah, like I never told my daddy. I never told my brother who was with us at all. And that stuck with me. I never told that story to nobody. The reason why I'm telling y'all this story is for anybody who looks like me that been to the South and got a taste of it. Hearing this story is not surprising. I like when she went to Kentucky, and when Trump was it when Trump won, Teach? I don't want to overstep my bounds with the story, but was it when Trump won and they said that good thing because we was going to shoot up the place or something like that? I think Teach is handling some other things, but yeah, I'm gonna save that. Save that until she get on.
No. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You muted my mic, but
oh, I did.
anyway. Yeah, when we went to the commercial break. No, what happened was one of my coworkers said that it was the race with Hillary and Hillary and Trump, and they said basically, they had prepared for the next civil war, that if Hillary got in office, they were going to have a civil war, and that they had been, buying arms and practicing and, getting their strategy together, that they were very serious about getting a Republican in office.
So what do y'all say? Because we all got those white counterparts that says, man, you my brother, but I don't see this as being a racial thing. This is, it's wrong, but it shouldn't be about race. What do y'all say to that person? I start with Teach. Well, I've never had that. Yeah,
I never had that said to me directly. I've had individuals that err on the side of this is wrong and it shouldn't be. I'm ashamed for people that feel like that, act like that, think like that. So that's the type of response that I get. I rarely, if ever, have gotten a person to truly speak their mind.
What about you, Beast?
Kind of lines with Teach, even though I'm a fervent believer of being honest, and especially when it comes to issues of race, like I get the same kind of response. Those that they tiptoe around it. They're more the ones that make you have to question, and those are the ones I tell them, because of conversations and conduct and where you carry yourself. Most black folk kind of feel like you're indifferent. Problem is, when shit hit the fan, we need 100% confirmation that you about it. So because you kind of iffy in the gray area, you better get in line quick, because you look like you could be cool, but you also look like you could be a secret member of the KKK. It could go either way with us. So it would definitely behoove you to make sure whatever alliances and allegiance you have when it comes to race, make sure that shit's known up front. So that in the event, we know not to look in your direction for help.
Yeah. For me, I actually had a conversation with somebody where it says, I don't see race. And the rage that just came upon me, I can't describe to you. And the rage that come upon me, because, my issue is when I have conversations with people when they have a different view than me, I want to know what makes them think that way. And this is one of those times where I'm just sitting there. I was like, I just really want to punch you in the goddamn face. But I listened to him. The issue that I have, because I told him, I was like, so are you honestly going to say that it's not about race? Like, why would you think that? Like, why would you? Where it's like, it's plain as day. It's like me. It's like me jacking Teach's car, but she's trying to. I'm sitting there trying to tell, no, Teach, I'm not jacking your car. I'm just, seeing that it runs good. And Teach is no.
It's funny you use that analogy. There's an actual video that proves this analogy. It is of a young man who needed a spare tire, so he decided to steal it off of someone else's car. So imagine me taking off the back tire of Donnell's car as Donnell walks up on me, asking me, for lack of a better term, fuck is you doing, nigga?
Right. And
I'm explaining to him, oh, no, it's not, it's cool. Man, yo, I got a flat. I'm right around the corner and I got a flat. So, I'm just getting me a tire. But that's my tire. Oh, no, it's good. I'm going to come back with a new one. I got you, man. This ain't no problem. No, you're stealing. No, I'm not stealing. I'm borrowing.
Yeah.
I'm going to come back.
Right. And
I'm giving you my flat. I'm putting my flat on here so I can go get me another tire. Then I'm come back and put that new tire on here.
Mm-hmm. And then I'm convinced. Right. And then I'm convinced, like, all right, cool, man. Go on here. I'll be right here. I'll be right here. And I'm sitting there waiting. Daylight turns into freaking nighttime. And I'm sitting there getting called like, yo, where you at? I'm waiting for dude to bring me back my spare. And then finally realize I just got gypped. And I see it with this case. I mean, it's one of the this is sad. So I'm not saying
the sad part about this whole thing is this is literally history repeating itself, in the sense of you sycophant sacks of shit have the unmitigated gall to try to legally prosecute a young black child. They did shit like this back in the day. They sent niggas his age to the chair.
Mm-hmm. Still to this day, the youngest kid I think was at 7. Anybody can correct me on that, but I knew that it was at very young age.
It was that's why I spoke on it, because as we talking about it, that image and story just popped in my head.
because I remember a meme that went out there because it was like a little white kid that got prosecuted, and he got like the max years. And it was like, oh wow, this is the first kid in history. And then people had to correct, oh, that's nice. Remember the first black kid to get freaking sent to the electric chair?
Yeah,
And
you
then
remember
come
they
to
fried
find
that
out,
little 8-year-old boy? Yeah.
Mhm.
Y'all remember the little 8-year-old nigga they fried back in 1900 something? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then come to find out that that kid was innocent.
Ain't no come to find out. I'm sorry, black moment.
Yeah.
Now,
And
I'm just going to speak plainly. The African, in his original genius, is the salt of the earth. She has magic and power. And anytime black blood is spilled, it is a human sacrifice. And whoever spills that black blood, they're guaranteed to be untouchable, reach some form of notoriety or fame, and inherit or come into sudden wealth. Look at the case of Trayvon Martin, Mike Brown. Look at the people that took their lives and look at how they became, one, untouchable. Can't prosecute them. They get book deals, so they come into some form of wealth. And of course, the notoriety, you begin to know these people, names that you never even knew existed before. So I say this and people, she talking crazy, but what does a human sacrifice do? Those are the surface things, but also that sacrifice. We're coming up on Palm Sunday, or just had Palm Sunday. We're going to Ash Wednesday and Good Friday and Easter. He rose. He was the human sacrifice. That's what they say Jesus is. But the real live sacrifice that has power is that black blood. Be it a man, be it a woman, be it a child. If it is of Negro descent, that is the true sacrifice in the whole entire world. And they don't mind spilling the blood of the black because they know they will gather the power that they will not normally or naturally get for themselves. Think about how Europe became a wealthy nation. It was not a multiple wealthy nations. It had not known wealth until it harnessed the power of the African God, separated him from his African people, and enslaved his people, and they became rich. There was a transference of power. They transferred their religion for the African God, and they became rich, and we became poor.
Well, Teach, I have a question, not to sound facetious or conspiracy theorist and anything, but with that being said, because there's a lot of truth to it. I don't care what you say. Black folk, black blood is just special. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's just something about our bloodline and our DNA that sets us apart from everybody else. So,
Because we are the
with
original created people.
True. So I asked the question, how do we, if our blood is so special, because I was just thinking, well, shit, we should just do the same thing that they've been doing to us. But if our blood is that specially in sync and in tune with the world, then obviously the Caucasoid blood is most likely the opposite end of that spectrum. So shedding their blood really wouldn't do no good for sacrificial purposes, would it?
No.
Okay. So then I go to the question, like, what can we do to, how can we make the correct sacrifice or the correct ritual to get back in tune with our African God? Not for the monetary riches, but just for that reestablishment of balance.
Well, one, we have to purge the poison out of our system. Everything that we take as a belief, everything that we think, everything that they told us was right, we have to know it's wrong. Everything they said was up, we have to know it's down. It's the opposite. We are exact polar opposites. I raised the argument earlier that the person that prosecuted this little boy had to be filled with so much hatred. And you corrected me, it has to be malice. That is from their DNA, and two, from their ancestral memory. Now, follow me a little bit. In the Bible, they talk about there being a war in heaven. And they talk about that the devil wanted to be God. And the devil set about to turn the angels against God and build him an army and fight God and take over the throne. If God was black and the devil was white, and
before you begin,
let me finish.
Because I see where you went there, though, Teach. I see where you're going there. I'm right there with you.
So, according to the Bible, God and his army defeated the devil, but gave him the reign over the earth. So if God's people live on the earth, would not the devil continuously torment and have so much hatred and malice towards God's people on the earth, because that is his domain? And that is why we black people cannot get justice, because we are up under the devil.
That's the term hell on earth.
Exactly.
She preaching over here, yeah. We ain't got no Bibles. You don't hear no organs, but she preaching over here now.
Yeah, because I think it is obvious, but I think sometimes we just be like what Teach was saying when people first hear it. Definitely us. We're like, it's too much conspiracy theories. But if you actually listen, you can
you just gotta think about what she said.
I mean, yeah, you have to listen, sit down and listen, put your feelings, whatever you feel, to the side and actually listen, and you be like, yo, shit, that makes a whole lot of sense. That's actually happening right now.
And the reason why is because you see situations that, well, I was going to ask Teach when she made the statement about, about Lucifer being, well, the devil being white. It made me think, well, when he was an angel, he was Lucifer or Samael, the angel of light. a being that was due to the immense radiation that emitted from him, those that could see his face would see a white face. I think Teach just know. That's one of the things about that. When you listen, you start to place information that you've already acquired over the years, and it starts to take on a new light. Like, hold on. Well, they did call him the Angel of Light, and he was pretty. And that kind of sounds like some arrogant white folk got us saying on TV or ran across. Well, damn. Now you feel like the meme.
Think of everything the opposite. If they say up, believe down. If they say left, believe right. Because the devil ain't gonna never tell you the truth. And think about this. Of all of the spiritual practices in the world, it is only the spiritual practice of the black man that is demonized and have no respect in the pantheon of cosmologies and the pantheon of religions.
Theology.
It's only the African that don't have a God. It's only the African. And if he is a God, he's a devil God. So just turn that back around. If we are the original people, we have the original God.
We are the original God.
Exactly. So that's why we're so hated in the earth. And you brought up the teacher, and I thought you were going to make this story. It happened somewhere in the Midwest. I don't know. But a teacher took a 5-year-old boy.
Oh, yeah, I did hear about that. Clean out the
toilet with his hands.
Yeah, I heard.
I forgot about that.
That's a certain kind of sick. That's a certain kind of. I'm gonna beat your
ass.
No,
the whole family.
No, look at it like this. No, look at it like this. For that teacher to form it in her mind that she was gonna make that child dig through feces and whatnot in the toilet with his bare hands, her ancestry was saying, that's the real God. Let's humiliate him. That's the voice that they hear. Okay, that's the voice that they hear in their head.
But also, it's funny that you bring it up, teacher. There's also a case in Texas where the one black kid went to a slumber party where he actually got beat up and was forced to drink piss. And I think this happened in Texas. And for this to happen to this kid, this
I blame the parents on that. I blame the parents on that.
And he was the only black child.
Yeah, I should have raised that. I don't care. I've grown up and was raised to be racially ambivalent. No, I love everybody. I fuck with everybody, but I ain't stupid neither. I'm not gonna put myself in a position that just seems wrong. And if I'm the only black person at any area, then there will be no black people because my black ass is disappearing. Because that's just a bad setup. I don't care where it is. I'm the only black. No, this is some horror movie shit. And this is how niggas get found missing their kidney and half of their liver later on in the movie. I'm good.
It's a situational awareness. I believe y'all remember our old panelist, Mr. Bragg, Alan Bragg.
Yes, sir.
He actually shared. I think he shared the story on the show, or maybe I seen it. Yeah. I think he actually shared it on the show where he said that he was invited to go shoot some guns with a couple.
And he said no.
Yeah, because he was the only, as we say in my neck of the woods, he was the only spook out of all of them that's gonna be there, and he was like, "Nah, I'm good."
Listen, but even if I do shoot one of them, they got way more guns than nah, I'm good.
Yeah, and see now it's all coming to me now because my mom and my daddy are always like, "Hey, who else is going to be there?" Because if you have people that they know that's going to be there, that's cool. But then also they gotta be like, "Okay, let me see what other people going to be there."
Yeah.
And I knew it.
And even on that, like as I told the story about Boy Scouts, I was the only black kid. And the only reason my dad allowed it was because it was through the school. And even though my school was predominantly white, we literally lived 10 minutes walking down the street.
Right.
And the neighborhood was predominantly black. So it was a weird dynamic. It's through the school. So it was like, okay, he assumed that maybe one or two other black kids there. Like I said, I ended up being on the black kid. Then that white boy felt comfortable enough to call me Oreo. And even at that age, I instinctively knew through his tone, this was disrespect. I didn't know what an Oreo was. If I thought about it, like, I'm not a cookie. No, I didn't even think about the racial epithet stuff. He said it in an evil manner, and I took it as disrespect, and I responded. And then once I seen how my dad responded, that I knew, oh, Oreo must be some racist term. And then go get older, you find out what it actually means. But that awareness was something that we had to learn, and it saved us from going through what we see now.
Yeah. But I think, and then also let's introduce our second half sponsor. Ladies and gentlemen, we're not going to go too far in the distance on the show. We're probably going to end it just 30 minutes early. This second half of the show is presented by Sky Zone Society. Go ahead and check them out. Sky Zone Society. Their logo and everything you need, strewn down at the bottom. What's the biggest thing that we can solve? Now, I know it goes back to what Teach said a long time ago, where she said there's going to be a time where nothing's going to be said. It's just going to happen.
It's going to get ugly.
So what can we do like now? Because it's funny, B, she was like, man, I should gather the boys and we should be going down to City Hall and doing something. Is that the course of action we should be doing, or we should be doing something much more drastic?
I've said it. I've already said what we need to do when it came to just showing that movement on a political level. Well, it stands. It's just a basic tactic of war, especially a war of attrition, and that's basically what we're going through. Because we might got more people, but they have more skilled resources than we do, and more assets than we do.
Right.
So this is a long game right here. So the best way for us to attack is multi-tiered blitzkrieg. That means, yes, have folk at the courthouse, have folk on the opposite side of town, have folk right up the street, spread their forces so thin that they can't even function properly at the areas that they're at, let alone get to them in a efficient time manner. Like I say, like folk in Greensboro, all the hood niggas, they know when it's anytime big shows go on down at the Coliseum, they actually wait. They know, they see like, I was going down. Homecoming, maybe. Bruce Springsteen, I bet. Well, who else? Garth Brooks. Who the fuck is country? I bet. Like, why you asking? Because anytime the city got big stuff going on, they put all their cops there. So if there's an event going on downtown, so the bulk of the cops are primarily halfway from the east side to a quarter's worth into the west side. All the criminals are going to attack the north and the south side at the same damn time. You'll have half of them over there, half on the north side doing robberies. You have the other half on the south side doing damn drug deals and drive-bys, whatever you want to do. Point being, you hit them where you know they can't do anything about it. And by the time they realize what's going on, you've already dispersed, spread, moved to new locations, increased whatever level of ignorance that you're trying to do. Whatever your goal is, you achieve it from that fashion. Hit them from different angles at a coordinated amount of time, so that even by the time they realize what's going on in A, you've already moved on to C. And by the time they trying to make their way to B, you're already down at fucking G. Telling your way right back up to A. That's what we need to do.
What about you, Teach?
I think first and foremost, you have to recognize the enemy. And in recognize the enemy, you cannot sleep with the enemy. You cannot breed with the enemy. Because if you're actively breeding with the enemy, you're destabilizing any form of strength you could have in your generation and your generation to come. Because from your creativity is your inheritance. Now you have the children that is part you and part the enemy. So you can't stand solid because you have divided out your DNA. You have to be for real about who and what the enemy is. And without that single thread of realization and willing to understand that you're at war, then you will always be unsuccessful. And that's why many times I have said, we're not ready. We're not ready. We're tired or we're fatigued, but we are not ready to purge the poison out of our system. Anybody ever have an infection? Any kind of infection in your body where you have to take some penicillin? Mm-hmm. Well, just think about how that bacteria forms pus, and it drains your energy, it drains your life force. It really takes a lot out of you. And it's not until you get penicillin or some type of antibiotic that will heal the germ and restore you back to optimum health that you feel better. So until we extract the poison out of our blood, out of our minds, out of our spirits, we are their product. They created us. We function as them. We function the way they programmed us. So we have to deprogram, deconstruct ourselves, return back to ourselves, come back to our right mind, come back to know who created us, to receive the power that would be transmitted from parent to child.
And once again, teachers laying those gems, ladies and gentlemen. For tonight, we will not be doing any of their segments. I think the show is too deep for having segments today. So we're just gonna go jump into the final thought. But any alibis before we jump in?
No,
yeah, go ahead, teach.
Go ahead, teach.
I just want to say that how could I say this? It's time for us to wake up. You know how a dog, when he's wet, and after he, finished being as wet as he want to be, then he shake all that water off of him.
Yeah, it's quite annoying.
That's what we got to do. That's what we have to do. We have to shake it off. And it's a serious thing. And people would say, oh, that means hate people. No, I'm not saying hate people. I'm saying love you, which is the opposite. When you love you, you choose you. Your mind is programmed to do the best for you, which may not be the best for them, but that's their business. Like your life is your business, their life is their business. But if their life is predicated upon you not having a life, again, that's their problem because you're not subject to them. And that's what you have to put back into your soul, your own autonomy of self-love, self-identification, and self-determination.
Once again, teachers knocking them out the park, grand slam. But anything else, Beach, before we get into the final thought?
I can't follow that, and I ain't gonna try.
Gotcha. Let's go ahead to a final thought, and I will kick it off. First of all, I'd like to thank the sponsors of the show. Got guys on the side in the back, and then for the first half of the show was Cheddar Boy Popcorn. I'd like to thank them first. First of all, I'd like to thank my panel for coming on the show and giving their thoughts. My final thought is these are the topics that we're going to start getting into. As much as we're going to get too serious, we also going to get to lighthearted too as well, because Fridays is basically going to be our Cash App Friday, our Laid Back Friday, and then Mayo going to be doing his introductions to Black-owned restaurants. So I just wanted to let you know that there is a balance. But hearing stories like these just rips my heart out of my chest. It don't break it. It just rips it. Where I could just sit here, serve my country, meet different people, different walks of life, and you hear these stories. You see the reaction of people. And it's crazy when things like this happens, you start to see the true colors of people. You really know, as they would say, you would know the real from the fake. For me, I'm just going to put that all together. You find out who your real friends are. Because the people that you chill with, had a beer with, probably got, probably served side by side with you, took the bullet for you. You probably their godson to one of their kids. They probably a godfather to one of your kids. And then you find out that this person was a racist bigot the whole entire time. And here's the flip side to all that. That one person you couldn't stand, that y'all, just the mere, just seeing that person, their presence just give you just it's like water coming on you, that anger that you just want to go over there and just want to fuck them up. And then you realize that person understands what you're going through, or that they're going through it. Of all people, your worst enemy either understands or going through it themselves. I agree with what people said about what happened in this, not this past, but the election before this. That people really start to see their friends, their neighbors' true colors. And now there's no hiding. We should treat stories like this the same way too. So when anytime you hear somebody, mainly with police brutality, they say if only if they comply, realize they're just telling you you're one of the good ones without telling you you're one of the good ones. You know that little challenge you got on TikTok, you know, tell me that you're a Cowboys fan without telling me you're a Cowboys fan. This is what's happening in reverse. You got a great job. You know who your father is. You're in your kid's life. All these great stuff. You're not like them, Morris. You're not like Dad Beast. Teach, you got a degree. You're not one of them. That's you. You is what they should strive to become. At first, it may sound great when you're first hearing it, but then you gotta think about it a bit like, what do you mean by that? What do you mean? Because those other people that you're talking about could be trying to get where I'm at, but they always are met with a roadblock, just like how I met roadblocks all my life. Just because you see a nice looking iceberg underneath, you're not seeing the rest of it that led me to this point. You don't see my battle scars. You don't see the torment or what I had to put up with. Everybody got a life story. But just don't let this part of the story highlight everything. So be careful who you associate yourself with and who you consider a friend. Don't give them excuses for how they feel. That's who they are. And like the old saying goes, whatever that person says, believe them. And I yield the floor.
I have been an academic graduate with honors. I have also been a collegiate honor, as well as a pharmaceutical tech, as well as a convicted drug dealer, a homeless nomad, an entrepreneur, an independent artist, done a lot of things, and I've been labeled a lot of things. It means nothing. Like Donnell spoke in his statement, I've heard those same statements my whole life. You're not like them. You don't know what got a person to that point. And sometimes being the person you think they're not is what helped them get to the person that they are at that moment. So don't judge, don't assume. If you're going to assume that they probably had a life more fucked up than you. or assume. You got like them fucked up now. But don't judge or assume people. If they like you before.
Um, I'll keep it simple. We have to utilize critical thinking, critical rethinking, and thinking new. Not only were the bodies of our ancestors chained, but the spirit of who and what we were and where we came from was chained on our minds. We have to break the chains on our mind and go on a discovery of self, discovery of who our original people are. We need to go and take these DNA tests and find out about what specific ethnic group we belong to and learn about that ethnic group. Learn about the spirituality and the cultural traditions of that ethnic group. There is where we find ourselves. There is where we find our power. And that power gives us our autonomy. And I want to read something real quick. I'm going to try to bring it up on my screen real quick. Just bear with me for a moment. And I think this fits into my message for the day. Come on. All right. Okay. This is a piece I wrote the beginning of this month, and it's called Being True to Oneself. How can one recounsel his great contributions to the world and not lose sight of himself? Please chime in. We need to discover a strategy and thoroughly instruct our genius. We must somehow help each other to know that it is okay to be a leader and a genius in your own right. That your humble beginnings were the ingredients that produce you and your talent, not the latter associations. Stay true to your origins, not your assimilation, and you will remain respected by all. So let that sink in. It is my hope that these words of encouragement uplift, motivate, and inspire each and every one of you. I speak from my soul to your soul. Ashe, so let it be. And I yield the floor.
Thank you so very much for that, Tish. Beast was actually had a call. If y'all heard the boom and all that stuff, he just want to say to each and one y'all have a good night. And as for Beast Johnson, Anita Job, aka Teach, and myself, Donnella Montemore, thank y'all for tuning in. We will see y'all on Wednesday. Please, ladies and gentlemen, be safe out there. We're still dealing with COVID. And unfortunately, we still with COVID and racism, but we've been dealing with that for over 400 years. So, but yeah, stay safe out there, and we will see y'all on Wednesday. Y'all have a good one. Catch y'all later. Bye.
Bye-bye.